Welcome, beautiful people, to Curating Black Thoughts podcast. This is a safe space for Black folks from all walks of life to discuss the difficult conversations. Here, we're not trying to agree or disagree per se, but we are trying to communicate our differences, our similarities, and our common goals so we can get to a better understanding and we can start supporting each other, y'all. Thank you for joining the Love Village. I'm your host, Quincy J. Roberts Sr., and you have just been queued up.
Yeah. Always show improve, never regress, always improve. Going up, raising the turbulence, fly as a satellite, high as the moon. Blowing up, sorta like terrorists, drawing our weapons out like a cartoon. A rebel like Marley, I'm robbing like Hood, taking the riches right back to my hood. Always show improve, never regress, always improve. Going up, raising the turbulence, fly as a satellite, high as the moon. Blowing up, sorta like terrorists, drawing our weapons out like a cartoon. A rebel like Marley, I'm robbing like Hood, taking the riches right back to my hood. I know these people been up to no good, ain't heard of us, why I'm thinking you should. Curry, I'm clutch so they know when it's good. Bury the opposition where they stood. Flurries, I'm punching like hitting the clock. Circle them once to kick it up a notch. This is when backpack rap me Snapchat. Wake 'em up, I'ma jerk 'em off the knapsack. Who the best, ain't no reason you should ask that. When the rest of these rappers need practice, I'm a pro implementing these tactics. Eat the whole spread, they ain't getting no ration. Run up a check, then I go and invest. We flipping like acrobatics over nets. Don't care who got next, you looking at now. When you see the crowd, then you should just bow. Shooting my shots since they talking foul. 3 hots in the cot, I'm locking them down. Stop, I think not, might as well take it higher. Hope you know there's no way that I'm coming down. Shooting my shots since they talking foul. 3 hots in the cot, I'm locking them down. Stop, I think not, might as well take it higher. Hope you know there's no way that I'm coming down. Always show improve, never regress, always improve. Going up, raising the turbulence, fly as a satellite, high as the moon. Blowing up, sorta like terrorists, drawing our weapons out like a cartoon. A rebel like Marley, I'm robbing like Hood, taking the riches right back to my hood. Always show improve, never regress, always improve. Going up, raising the turbulence, fly as a satellite, high as the moon. Blowing up, sorta like terrorists, drawing our weapons out like a cartoon. A rebel like Marley, I'm robbing like Hood, taking the riches right back to my hood.
Cause I don't do this for like views and likes and attention. My stuff is all about healing. Mostly for me, believe it or not, I'm not trying to sound selfish, but if someone who's listening to this could heal from it, then I've done my job.
That's not selfish at all. I think and that's one of the reasons what made me wanted to do this is because your sister didn't think I would do it. But me just watching a few podcasts of yours that I've watched, it kind of helped me, you know what I'm saying? Kind of inspired me to even want to do it more because I've gotten something out of your podcast. It helped me. Then my cousin told me, she was like, oh, Queen Tamika, she was like, that was a good, show. I'm glad you shared it. So it made me feel good that I shared it and she could see you doing something that you are, I think, great at. And also, she's a part of my family, so she's been through a lot too. So it even helped her out. So you just never know who you can. I don't care if it's one person. I don't care as long as it helps somebody. I love it, and I'm gonna keep sharing it. So hopefully one day you can reach somebody and help somebody that need it. That might be stuck in a place that, okay, well, if they can do this, I could do this. My sister, for instance. So
absolutely. So let's get into it. That was a great way to start. Normally I don't start like that, but hey, I love that start. That was a great start. So welcome, Love Village. We're right into the conversation. We don't need a long introduction, but I do want to shout out. This is one of my sisters. She's blood related, not my blood sister, but my blood cousin. Love her to life. She's my blood older sister's best friend. She's been her best friend as long as I could remember. When we moved from Oklahoma to Henderson, she's been there from day one. So when we talk about day ones, I've seen, I've heard, my sister has always talked highly of you. I've always seen you have her back. And just following up from the last 2 episodes of the podcast, not love, but Life After Death, and just loving without limits. Ebony Gil-Mitchell has been the number one example for me through my eyes. No one could tell me anything other. She has been the number one support system for a lot of people that have been going through a lot of things, a lot of loss, a lot of pain. And herself, she has been through some things herself, and the fact that she has put her stuff to the back burner and just stepped up for so many people, I really, really, really wanted to give her flowers. And we're not only going to talk about loss and trauma, we're also going to talk about some of the wonderful things that she's doing in her community. And she's a chef, the best chef that I know, next to my grandma back in the day. You know how grandmas, they can't cook no more.
Yes.
You know, they get older and that cooking skill leave. But back in the day, my grandma was the best cook. But now Ebony Gil-Mitchell is chefing up so many different creative ideas that I'm so jealous that I can't travel down to North Carolina. But we're going to talk a little bit about that as well and what she's doing. So without any further ado, please welcome my sister, my cousin, Ebony Gil-Mitchell.
Hi.
Please just tell the Love Village a little bit about yourself and who you are, and then we'll get right into back into the conversation, because we were talking before the introduction, so we'll get right back into that conversation.
Well, as Quincy have told you, I'm Ebony Gil-Mitchell. I am a chef, certified chef. I have 5 children. I'm a wife, and I'm a very, very family-oriented person. I love family. I love people, and once you become part of me, I love hard. So I guess that's why one of the reasons I can be there for people when they need it the most, and I'm grateful to be able to do that. To be able, like you said, put my stuff on the back burner and give love when it's needed. And I'm thankful for the people that give it to me, that help me be stronger, to be there for other people who need it the most. I'm just happy to be a part of that, to be able to be a part of that.
Good. And we're really grateful and thankful. I know my family, well, my sisters and myself, we're very, very grateful for you and all that you have done for us in the last 2 years. So let's get right into the conversation. So grief of a loved one, something that is not new to us. That's what we were talking about before we started the podcast. Where we're from, Henderson, North Carolina, a very, very small town, but with a lot of creative people, a lot of amazing people, a lot of forward-thinking people have come out of Henderson. And it's a lot of people that are near and dear to me that are still there. As we said before the podcast started, with our generation, I would say millennials, 1978 to 1996, if you were born in that age range. For us, we've been losing people to gun violence and family members to health issues from the age of 11 to 12 on to now. So for us in that small town, that's not a lot of people to grow up around, and a lot of people to kind of have around you to help you grieve and show you how to grieve. So for me, I know I grew up with a lot of bad habits when it came to grieving. For example, when a high school classmate of mine passed away, and there were several, but one of the first ones, it was sad. We were outraged, but by the time it got to the 4th one, it was like regular. It was normal. It was such and such died. Oh man, he was a good person. weeks of outrage, 2 weeks of mourning, and then we're back to business as usual. Can you walk me through, Ebony, just your first experience of loss?
That was when I was young. I was out of high school, and there wasn't a family member. I was going with my first love, and we wasn't like back together, but we wasn't apart. He didn't die by gun violence. He died in a car wreck. And that was the first one that, because it was different, because it wasn't a loved one, but it still hurt like it was a loved one. And I can't explain. I actually dreamed about it. I had a dream that he was in a car wreck. And I was living in Charlotte. He took me to Charlotte. He was like, I'm not leaving you in Henderson. You going to do something with yourself. He was determined. And he said, if I got to take you myself, that's what I'm going to do. So he did. And my family loved him. And I got a phone call. He would come, visit me or whatever. He actually called me that day. He was like, are you coming to Henderson this weekend? I was like, no, I'm not coming to Henderson. I got to work. And he was like, you coming, you just don't know. I said, Tyron, I'm not coming to Henderson, He said, well, you coming. So before he got off the phone, he said, I love you. I said, okay, I love you too. He was like, no, I mean it. He said, I really, really love you. And it was different, but I still didn't pay it no mind. And so when I had that dream, I woke up out of my sleep. I had the basement, my aunt's basement to myself. It's like I had my own place. And I didn't go back to sleep, and the phone rang. And it was late, like probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, okay. So I closed my eyes tight and wouldn't stop ringing. So I ran upstairs to answer the phone. And it was my mom. And she was like, Tyron was in a wreck. I was like, okay. And she just kept saying, yeah. I was like, okay, well, what's wrong? So my cousin took the phone from her. And she told me, what happened or whatever. And I was home alone, so it was a disaster. I just fell on the floor. I had nobody to hug and pick me up. So that was the first, tragically, without it being gun violence, death that I experienced. So, as a young person, as somebody that was very close to me. I mean, it was others in my neighborhood that, you had their heart for them, but it wasn't the same because we were so close. And he was my first love.
Exactly. Someone that you had to spend day-to-day time with. So that first tragedy let's fast forward a little bit, young adulthood, some more people are passing away. Fast forward to adulthood, you have children, you're married now. Opening up your businesses, you're doing amazing in the community, feeding the community. Let's talk about handling and what prepared you for the tragedy of your mother. Who came first, your mother or your nephew?
Talik was first. Actually, I had a first cousin that thought she was my mom that died in February, but she was sick, so she didn't die in a violent way. It was unexpected, but expected, but it still, hurt. And by me, I stayed every summer with her, the whole summer, every weekend. So she was like a mom to me. That was in February.
Yes.
Okay. April. March. I'm gonna say this. March, we found out my mom had terminal cancer, which was in her lungs, that spread it to her liver, that spread it to her brain. And we found out that the tumor was so big that they couldn't do anything about it. And they gave her 6 months to live. You ain't gonna put no time on my mom's life. That didn't, it hurt, and it hit me, but I was in denial. So, Talik, along with my children and everybody else, they was just all over the place, But my mom was strong. And she said, as long as y'all stay strong, I can do it. Don't cry in front of me, don't. And my thing is, how do you expect us not to show any emotions? And they gave my mama 6 months to live. How could we not do that? Mm-hmm. She had to go to rehab. I mean, it hit her instantly. She went into pretty much a little slight, she was in a little coma, whatever, breathing machine. She had to have emergency surgery, all of that stuff, seizures, the whole nine. It just happened so fast. And on a Thursday, Talik came to the grill. I was running a grill, which was it was still probably end of March, that Thursday. Okay, so right at maybe the first, maybe it was the first or the last day of March. And his mom came in and they was together. We heard her before we saw him. And so the little lady that was working with me was like, who in the world was there? I said, I don't know, but they going in. And it was my sister and Talik. She was fussing at him like every mother that's trying to save their son, put it that way. And I'm like, what in the world y'all got going on? And he was like, Cree, I signed back in school. I said, oh yeah. He was like, yeah. I said, okay. I said, well, sir. And he was like, I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna do this. I said, well, bring me your diploma, whatever the rest. That was on a Thursday. So Saturday, well, can I say this first? 2 weeks ago, so maybe y'all understand my point of view and how much my nephew meant to me. Part, just a little sample. 2 weeks before that, I was closing, and right there in the road from where I worked at, which was Andrews Avenue, it was his hangout spot. And we saw cops everywhere in yellow tape. And my daughter was like, Mom, they look like some of the boys Talik hang with. So she called his phone, no answer. She called again, no answer. So I said, well, call him through Facebook, no answer. I said, call him with my phone. So she called him with my phone. I don't even think the phone rang one time. He picked up. I said, where are you at? And he was like, why? I said, do not play with me. Where are you at? And he was at one of his cousin's house in Young Avenue. I said, you telling me the truth? He was like, yeah, what's wrong? I said, well, no, we saw cops everywhere, and I immediately got worried because Naisha said she saw one of your friends. I said, so maybe you should call and check and make sure it's not them. Now that we felt a little better, we didn't want it to be anybody. But he called or whatever, and, he was good. And I could tell it made him feel good that I thought enough to call to make sure he was in good hands. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward back to what I was saying earlier, that was that Thursday I saw him. My mom said she saw him and she said, he told her bye, Grandma. She said she told me the look he gave her, she knew she wasn't going to see him anymore. But I didn't know this till after his death. Mm. And Sunday, I got a call. My mom was in, rehab, so she had the bags after her surgery, and I had brought her some red velvet cake and orange creamsicle cake, and ER called me the next morning, that Sunday morning, was like, we had to rush your mom to the hospital, she's bleeding. And I was like, bleeding? Blood is all in her bags. I panicked, so instead of going to church, I had to go to the ER in Oxford. So I get there, my mom is laying there, and I'm like, what in the world? And she just laying there, and the lady was like, I'm sorry, false alarm, whatever you gave her to eat, it was in her bag and it made it look like blood. She was like, so from now on, could you inform us that you're giving her something so we won't go in this panic mode? So I left there and I called my husband. I said, let's go to Dennis to eat breakfast, my treat. So we went, my sister called, she was upset. Talik had broke the window, something he had did at the house to get in the house to take his shower. I said, well, he shouldn't have had to break the window, to take no shower. So, of course, she got mad with me because she said, you don't think Talik do no wrong, and hung up on me. So we went to Raleigh, getting my stuff for my grill. And my family had came all the way home from Connecticut to visit my mom, which I was such a beautiful day. I just felt so good. My family, everybody was just loving that day. The sun was shining bright. We got pictures, And she said, well, stop by here, because she had left the nursing home and went back to Raleigh to where she was staying. She said, well, y'all come by. So we did, me and my family, as we did every Sunday. So we stopped by there, and my husband's phone rang. And my mother-in-law was trying to tell him then that she had heard somebody had got shot. And I don't know if she knew it was Talik, it was her. And then my cousin called my phone, which is Tamika, and she was like, Kriya, Talik got shot. Everything stopped. I said, let's go. So I was driving, and my husband said, pull over. I said, I ain't got time for that. I got to get back to Henderson. Talik done got shot. And he just demanded me. I'm like, okay, I better pull over. I said, okay. I said, you know, I just don't want to take up no time, no extra time. So he got in the driver's seat. So my phone rang again. By the time he pulled off, it was my cousin Tamika. And she always had to be a strong one too, to tell you stuff sometimes. And she said, Kriya, he didn't make it. I said, what you talking about? She said, he didn't make it, Kriya. I said, no, you're not going to tell me that. You know, and the whole car just went crazy. Because my children are like, he was an only child. So, you know, he stayed with us on several occasions. So my kids was extremely close to him. The whole car went crazy. And mind you, my husband had to stay sane while driving us. So I feel like there was God. That's why my faith is so strong in God. It's undeniable. And it was him that told him to pull their car over, because if she found out he got killed while she's driving, it's going to be a disaster. So the whole car went crazy. So it was like we was going 5 miles per hour. And I'm looking at him like, you can't drive no faster. We're not getting that fast enough, because I refuse to believe that my nephew has gotten killed. Who wants to kill him? He had no enemies. He wasn't the best child, but he wasn't a bad child. He didn't deserve to get killed by a gun. And what gives somebody the right to think that what triggers your mind to think that you can kill or take somebody else's life, and especially a child who hadn't been 18 but 6 months in a few days? So, you know, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. So we ride, my phone ringing, I didn't answer it. So we get to Henderson, we pull up, people are everywhere. And it's a white sheep, which was on top of my nephew. So my son, oh gosh, it was bad. I heard stuff later, you know, that like the sheep blew off of him and how he just fell to his knees and nobody could pick him up. You know, it was bad. And my daughter, we had to get him medicine, and his mom was at work. We couldn't reach her. And somebody felt the need to let her know on her voicemail that she had lost her son. People be so eager to be the first to let somebody know that somebody dies that they don't even realize. My sister had to drive all the way from Raleigh, so she called me. You know, and she was like, I was like, okay, I got to take this call, you know. She said, they killed my baby. Just as calm. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I just took a deep breath. She said, they killed my baby. And the cry out of a mother. I'm just the aunt. But the pain that I felt through that phone, and I had to stand there and be strong for her. So she pulled up at the hospital, and it was like everything was in slow motion. So I just said, I didn't go out there to greet her. She did. She was doing pretty good when she got in there. So she wanted me to, you know, they wanted her to come down immediately to identify his body. But we had to go and sit in this little room, big, huge room, with a detective. Was like, Talika Ahmad Harris is dead. So I told her, I said, I'm sorry, you know, because she rubbing my back. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm supposed to be hugging you right now. I said, please forgive me, you know, whatever. But I told the detective, I said, sir, I'm not saying this because it's my nephew. I said, but he was a good boy. I said, Talik was a very good boy. I said, I've never known him to have a fight unless it was with my daughter, Brakia. I didn't know about it if he did. I said, I just don't understand. And he looked at me and he said, ma'am, I know you're not lying because I've never heard this boy's name. He said, we're going to do everything we can to get the person who did this to him.
Is this case still open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we walked down to the room where he was the morgue. And once again, the longest walk of my life. So my sister walks in the door and she immediately backs up, and I walked over there to him and I looked at him. Quinn, I have never in my life, it was like, I can't explain it. He was just so beautiful. And I know he's a man, a young man. I told my mama, I said, I just don't, it was, oh my God, his skin was beautiful. He didn't have good skin, but everything was just perfect. His eyelashes just curled and he laid there. I didn't see any blood, like maybe a little specks on his hand where he had got shot or whatever. And he just laid there so peacefully, even though he had died in a violent way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a very violent way, because he got shot in the head and the hand, the chest. I just feel like you meant to do that. There's no other way around. There's no way that you just walk up to somebody and shoot. I mean, he had to be begging for his life. I just figured he put his hand up because he had a bullet, on his hand or whatever. But for somebody to do kill him so viciously, to me, like that, it's just, I don't understand it. Yeah, so to try to wrap your mind around something like that is very hard to do. So that's why I say God is an amazing God.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we got, and I'm not the most religious person, but as I hear you talk, and it's very reminiscent of the last episode where we talked about the courageous Mrs. Campbell and the Campbell family with Ahmaud Campbell, which is ironic that Talik's middle name was Ahmaud. As I hear you talk, what's going through my mind is like, especially that the case is still open. I purposely turned the case off to my radar because it's family for me, and I didn't want to, that's a trigger for me. So one, the case is still open. And then the way that you talk, I really want the people that are listening and viewing this to understand that it's very courageous, to talk about something that's ongoing. And then two, we all have family members, we have loved ones, people in our lives that we know do bad things, do things that we wouldn't do. We may have some shooters in our family. So if you're listening to this and you know, maybe not necessarily dealing with this particular case, but any case, if you know of anybody, and I know it sounds corny, it sounds cliche, you got to speak up, because the main reason why I do these type of podcasts is not to dwell on the case. And that's what we were about to get into that. I don't really want to talk about the case, but what I really want to talk about is Talik, who Talik was, or who Talik is to people. Because a lot of times, as I said in the last episode, the last two episodes, and you said this too, Ebony, which brings me to my point. A lot of people just nosy. They just want to know what happened, what went on, who the players, who are not the players, who are supposed to be the players, so they can go back. That's not what we're going to do here. But what we are going to do is, and Demetrius gave me this, he said, I love the way you humanize people that you interview. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to humanize Talik. So let's take a couple of steps back. Very tragic way for our brother Talik to go out. But let's back up. And for our listeners, for you as an auntie, and we know aunties are just as important as mothers, because sometimes we can talk. I know for myself, and this is an I statement, I used to speak to my aunties more than I spoke to my mama. So I'm sure Talik has told you some things that he probably won't tell mama or daddy or grandma. So let's talk about Talik. Let's talk about some of your memories, because I really want people who are listening and looking at this to know that Talik, as you said, he may not be perfect. However, he didn't deserve to die. No one deserves to die, in my opinion. I know some pretty shitty people in this world, and even them, I don't think they deserve to die. So let's talk about Talik a little bit more. Tell me about some of your fondest memories. What was his favorite foods? Because I know that's something that you guys find. Yeah, like who was?
He was definitely a hype man for his auntie. His homeboy came in the grill one day. I was having a bad day. All of them came in and the tears were flowing, and I had to get myself together. I hadn't started yet, and it was like a little later after that. I guess he wanted to make me laugh. His name is Ra Ra. He came in there and Talik did this little thing with his hands. So he was like, Talik, I'm gonna tell you something now. My aunt could cook. It's a cooking woman. And so he started marking them and twitching and stepping back and forth like him. I mean, he marked them so hard I almost cried tears. And his brother stood and looked at him like, there's something wrong with this dude. But even with his friends, like, they be at my mama's house and I don't know if he told them, don't pay my aunt no mind because she crazy. I said whatever to him. And I'll be like, do your mama know you here? Who's your mama? Do you know, so on. I'll just go in on all of them, fuss at them like as if they was my own, which I feel like we all should do. Mm-hmm. That's one good memory that I do have. It's of him, but for me being around him as a good memory. He was such a clown.
What was some of his dreams? What did he want to do after graduating? Because when you Google him, and I know a lot of people that are listening that are not familiar with his case, they're going to be nosy anyway and try to Google him. The first thing, and another reason why I wanted to humanize my cousin and your nephew, is because the first thing you pull up when it says Google, it says Vance County High School student was shot and killed in Henderson on Sunday night. That's pretty much who he is to the public. So I really want to let people know, like,
Talik was extremely
student.
He was extremely smart. I remember going to my mom's house one day where he stayed, and she was like, "Look what this boy got in the mail." So they had came. He didn't go to early high school, the early college thing, but they came to my mom's house to try to, recruit him, as I would say. And he said he didn't want to go. And I read the letter. My mama said, just read the letter. And it was like, the academically, whatever. And I was like, are you really going to waste all of this, boy? I said, you know how many kids still trying to get in early college, they can't get in, and they want you to come because they see your potential. Mm-hmm. And he loved basketball. So if he could have been anything, I honestly believe a professional basketball player would have been one. Mm-hmm. But I see him as being an engineer also. Because Talik was, Lord knows, he couldn't play basketball at all. But he was an extremely smart boy. He was one of those ones that was smart and didn't want people to know he was smart. Type of thing. Yeah. He wanted to be cool. He was a follower. He wanted to hang with the boys. So this is where my sister problem came in at. Because, you're my only son. And in my family, as you know, the men don't do too well. So we got to break this curse somewhere. You got to stop saying and stop falling, which I feel like a lot of young people do because so many people have said it to them. No, we're going to speak better things in your life. We're not going to allow you to go down this road. We're going to speak better things as far as when I say better things like, get a high school education so you can move on and go to college and do something better. Outgrow this hex that has been put on Henderson that all of your young boys fall trapped to me. Yeah. I believe, I feel like this. If you can be dealing drugs, if you got that much sense to not get caught for so many years, imagine what you can do if you apply yourself. That same ability.
Amen. You know what I'm saying? I always say drug dealers get more credit than people who are doctors, who are attorneys, who are nurses, who are teachers. I think teachers should be the top people in the community, but it's normally drug dealers. And that's a whole nother episode of a podcast. Let me know how because you have a son, how has Talik's murder, because it was a murder.
Gosh.
How has that impacted how you talk to your son, how you interact with your son now in 2020?
Talik's death for my son, by me working at the grill, it was like I didn't focus. And I beat myself up about it as a mom. My son's name is Clayton Jr. We call him CJ. CJ didn't talk and communicate with us for, I say 2 years. 2 years, schooling wasn't good. Attitude was horrible. He didn't speak to people. He didn't talk to people. So I'm like, maybe it's a teenage thing, boys go through it. And by me not having my mom here to help me, because I went to her for everything when it comes to raising my children, it's kind of hard. So me and my husband got to figure this out ourselves. So we moved, and my mom stayed not even a minute from me. So I don't know if it was the memory or it's like a darkness of where we stayed at. So we moved, and we moved here, maybe a couple of weeks. He came home from school and he said, "Hey, Mom, did you have a good day?" I turned around, I looked at him. I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, okay, where did that come from? And I didn't notice it. So he started opening up, talking more now. Oh my God, that boy made me cuss like I have no God in me sometimes. It really did something to him. So he went to his first football game since we've been staying here. And he was 16. But I said, my husband looking at me like, look, it's okay. So I told him, I explained to him, all of my children, y'all gonna have to, bear with Mama, because every time you leave out that door, I don't know if you're coming back. Mom, why you talk like that? I said, I can't help it. I say, it's no secret. Ain't no need to sugarcoat nothing. He at the game. I told him, I said, make sure you speak to people that used to say hey to you, whatever. I try to make it, fun. And the whole time my son was there, I couldn't, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And see, I know he's angry, and I know it's in him. I know it's in all of my kids, that anger. And then you got people saying, free him. What if he know who these boys is? I don't know what he's thinking. I can only pray and ask God to cover him and just guide him. And you got boys that put on the internet that go dig him up out of his grave, just hateful stuff. People just doing, they pick at his homeboys about him. Your homeboy this, your homeboy that. So how do you talk to your child and make them understand to ignore them when you can't ignore it?
Let's dig deeper on that. And then we're gonna go into something else that you're going through with your mother's passing as well. But with, I want to say, Black on Black crime, we talked a little bit about it last episode, but we know Black on Black crime, just like white on white crime, and women on women, male on male, male on female crime. It's crime is crime. But let's just hone in a little bit on the type of crime that has plagued our family, our communities. Young men, I don't know if it's gang related, because I'm not old, but I've gotten to the point where I don't even keep my ear to the streets no more because it's pointless. I was groomed and raised around drug dealers, but as I say to the young men that I mentor now, the drug dealers, and you know this as well as anybody else, the drug dealers back in the day, they had a code, they had standards. It was certain types of people. And for me, and I'm just going to speak for myself, because I know a lot of people who have had the same type of environment as me, they're like, oh no, Quincy, your punk ass you ain't selling no drugs. You going to
That's
school.
how I felt about Talik.
It's like, you going to school because you different. So you need to get away from here before we tell your mama. Like that was that type of the drug dealers. I mean, yeah, they gave me stuff. They gave me weed and bought me liquor, but they also, it was a wall. It was a wall around certain people. And don't get me wrong, they definitely targeted some other people my age that was, maybe not as focused, or they didn't see a potential. But now in 2020, all I hear about, which makes me afraid for, and shout out to Clayton Sr., but which makes me afraid for Clayton Jr., for Qantas, for my son. I mean, he only 4 years old, but for my other nephews, my cousins down south, it's like all I see on social media is these young folks wanting to be down with a certain group, and it's shoot 'em up, bang bang, gang gang, all these terms, and it's like, how do we get here? How do we get here? So if you could talk to the people that are antagonizing, because Talik is gone. There are other people that are gone. Our loved ones are not coming back. This can only get worse.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's engaged in the type of behavior, maybe out in the public, they're gangster, but behind closed doors, they're sneaking and watching this podcast and let me see what they saying. So, because I was kind of that type of young person. I would act a certain way in public, but behind closed doors, I'm reading. Like you said, Talik was a very smart person. He didn't want his friends to know. I was that type of young man. I was that young black boy where I'm going to ace the test, but when you ask me what I made, I'm like, she gave me an F, that bitch. But I really got a B. So talk to young men and women out there that just think that everything that they see on television, everything that they see on social media is real life. And what would you say? Because I know you have 4 other children.
I have young children.
I know you have to have this conversation a lot in your house because you have different age range too as well.
I mean, I don't think it's too many days that go by. Even with my daughter sharing certain stuff on Facebook, I'm like, even though I know, she said, Mom, I don't even know half of the stuff I share. I said, yeah, but you're looking like you're doing it. I don't know if you're doing it because of whatever or.
And how old is she?
I said, huh?
How old is she?
19.
19. Okay. Tell her to watch Social Dilemma tonight on Netflix. Tell her. So
she don't even want to be friends with certain grown-ups because she was like, I don't want them to think that's me. This, that, and the third is just social media. That's not my life. I said, I understand that.
Tell her to watch Social Dilemma on Netflix.
I sure will.
But if she doesn't have Netflix, she can use my account. She must watch that tonight.
Okay. And she got it too. She got it, so I'm gonna tell her. But for me, like Talik's friends, for instance, that come around me, other parents, I'm not saying nobody in particular, but I have known this, may want them to retaliate or might want them to do. I don't. And I know they love, it's 2 that comes here to get food anytime. I know that's not my blood. For a fact, I don't want that for them. As a matter of fact, I pray for them like I used to pray for Talik, and when I see them, it just does something to my heart in a good way, and even now when I hear things, I'm just praying that it's not one of them, so I wouldn't dare want them to go get themselves in no trouble and their mom and then their other friends go through what they're going through, what we are going through, or my sister is going through. I just hate to see young people, like what if the shoe was on the other foot? Do you want your mom to go through what my sister went through? Do you want your mom your aunt to go through what his aunt went through? You know what I'm saying? Like I was praying that this situation would change a lot of them in a good way, as far as, you know, want to do something different, because they don't want that to be them. They don't want their mom or their aunts and their siblings to go through what they see his family go through. Even people that wasn't affiliated with him or didn't deal with him, Talik touched a lot of people. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that my little cousin, that he was extremely close to, like a brother. I think that's the thing that hurt them the most, because Talik's spirit was such a humble. He was people loved him for him, you know, and I think that's what got them the most, because they can't figure out, they're traumatized by it. They can't figure out how to somebody that didn't bother nobody or do anything, that he didn't deserve what he got. So I think that part of it affected them more. But I also wanted them to know, like, I wanted them to come around us. I wanted them to see what we was going through. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want this to happen to them. I don't want them to retaliate, because I feel like this boy is going to get what's coming to him. And I tell my sister, we got to stay humble. We got to forgive. We got to do right, because I don't want us to stop our blessing in his death, whoever's getting sentenced for his death. I don't want that to happen. I don't want nobody, like the young people that's out here taking these people's lives and feel like it's okay. What if this was you? What if this was your family? Are you going to wait till this happened to you for you to feel empathy for us, or for you to feel some type of way? It's not right. No parent, no. I mean, it's bad enough the people die from sickness, old age, and all that stuff, and it hurts. But gun violence, my mom died 2 months after Talik. Oh, that's a pain I still can't get over. But it was a different type of hurt. And I don't think these young people realize that gun violence is a type of hurt that you just cannot, I can't explain it. And it hurts just like it was yesterday. And it has been 3 years, 6 months, and a few days. And it hurts just like it was yesterday. I don't want them to have to go through this. Don't feel like you got the right to take nobody's life. Like, that's not in your hands. That's not up to you. You didn't give it. You can't take it away. Stop hurting people's parents. Like, stop putting people through this. Stop putting human beings, and we're not born to hurt this way. We're not born to go through this. Y'all not born to get killed by gun violence, and you're not born to take another person's life. It's not in your hands. It's not up to you. Absolutely. And you're going to get it back. I don't care how long it takes.
Karma's a real thing, and it's two sides to the coin, because as we talk about the pain that the family has to go through, it's another family also having to either one realize that they have a shooter in their house, or they've raised a shooter, or it's some families that are down with their shooters. They have to orchestrate what they're gonna say, what their image is gonna be now.
Or you know what I often do? I look at his mom. Like, the boy mom stood in the grill one day at the door. And you know, my mind be so many places sometimes, I don't remember half of the stuff that I should. So I looked at her, and she stood there and she looked at me. I definitely don't hate her. I don't know how my sister feels. She never told me she hate her. But the look that she gave me, I knew she was sorry for what her son did.
Exactly. Absolutely. And it's not the end. This could be, this is just the beginning of what, and I'm not the most religious person, but this can be the beginning of what God has in store for your family, to be in preparing you guys to be stronger for what's about to happen, the blessings that's about to pour in you and Essence life. And shout out to Essence Gil, my lovely cousin. We used to tear Southern Vans to pieces together. But yeah, it's one of those things where I want the mothers of shooters, or the mothers and fathers of, when your child ain't shit. You know, and when your child has potential of not being shit, just like your child has the potential of greatness. So when that happens, try not to give up on them. It's easier said than done. I'm a new parent, so everything for me has been challenging, but I really want mothers and fathers just to be able to talk to their children about subjects like this, because I don't want it to, like you said, I don't want any family to have to go through either side, avoiding the public or going into places feeling uncomfortable because something their family member did, or the opposite, where that person comes into your space and you feel like you have to feel a certain way and all your emotions are being challenged. It's something that we can avoid. Like you said, it's not like a family member dying from health reasons. It's gun violence, something that we can definitely stop. So I know we won't be able to solve the problem in this hour or with this conversation, but it at least gets the word out. It gets Talik's story out. It gets his name back out there, because we easily forget these stories. Like I said offline, we are so routine now, especially being from Henderson. It's like on with the next one, to the next case, to the next case. And I want to really start humanizing these young Black men and these beautiful Black queens that we are losing, because they had dreams and goals. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you, because as I said in the beginning, you are the most strongest person I know in real life when it comes to grief and dealing with loss of loved ones. So you've lost a loved one to car accident. You've lost a nephew to gun violence, brutally gun violence. And then 2 months right after you lost your nephew and having to deal with what you just talked about, with so much grace, you lose your mother. So briefly tell us about how grieving your nephew, being there for your sister, and then having to deal with the loss of the person who gave you life, the person that you went to when things were icky and you needed somebody to talk to. Talk about that and how you're dealing with that, how you're trying to overcome that, some of the things that you've put in place to make sure that you heal. Because believe it or not, I've heard this before. Within the last, I would say last month, 3 people have told me, yeah, I've lost my brother. And like 4 months after that, I lost my mom. For me and my sister, 4 months before my mom passed, we lost our grandfather.
And look, in 2 months after my mom died, I lost her first cousin. It was like a brother to gun violence.
So talk to us about how the Black woman, because for me, it's always the Black woman that I could go to, whether they're a mother or not. They just have that nurturing feeling and that just presence of strength and resilience. So for someone who's a mother of 5, who mothers the community through her wonderful cooking, a wife, a sister, a cousin who also straddles that line of sister cousin. So you have so much on your plate. What's grieving look like to you and for you?
I ended up closing my grill the end of that year after all those deaths, because I also lost 2 first cousins after my mom. And my first cousin came to me, who checks on who my mom, one of the ones told my mom to take care of her baby, her daughters. She said, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. She said, but I'm kind of glad that you decided to close down. I was like, okay. She said, because you haven't had time to grieve. She said, I know why you're doing it. She said, I just feel like you need to sit and think and just get it all out of your system. I was like, okay, whatever. And I could say for me, like, of course, the one and only God, my husband of 16 years, we've been together a little over 20. I don't know what I would have done. Like, even with Talik's, when we went to go view Talik's body, I almost fell on the floor and he just grabbed me. He was like, no, you can't do this. And even when his arms not being around me, sometimes they was around me, along with God's arms. And your sister, of course, she would call me and, I love you. That would be the first thing she would say to me, whatever. And I got a first cousin that's just like a mama to me, who just lost her dad, which was my uncle, in January. I honestly don't know what I would have done without them. And my Uncle Richard, he was very close to my mom. So he would come and see me, and, and it went to a point where he couldn't even come and see me because he said that my cousin told me that we remind him so much of my mom, he couldn't take it. And just being strong for my children and my kids. I got 5 children. I'm like, I got 5 kids, a lot of kids. But now I know why I have my 5 children. Because they have really, really, and I got 3 grandbabies. It gives me a headache. I know with them, this is what helped me get through it. And cooking. I now know why I have the ability to cook. Because I surprise myself sometimes with the things I do. I know now why I have the ability to cook and why it's in me the way that it is, because a lot of times I cook to get my mind off of things. And some can hit me and I'm not satisfied until I do it. And I honestly feel like all of these things were given to me. And then when I was younger, I used to go sit with my grandma, and she used to put so much stuff in me, and I never understood, like, what is she saying? But now I understand. Every race get weaker and wiser. Every dog have their days. Every little thing that my grandma told me as a child, I need it now. It helps me. And then I got some ladies that's in the that I met since I've been cooking, and I understand why I connected to them so well. One was Miss Natalie Watkins, they call her Nene. She would come by to pray for me, and I'll have tears falling, and she'll just walk in the door and say a prayer that I needed. And she'll walk out, come in the restaurant, walk and say that prayer, and she'll walk right on out of there. Hey, babe, I love you, whatever, say her praise. I had another lady, Shannon Hargrove. She didn't come to get nothing to eat, but she stood there, and the words that she poured into me, it gave me strength. Miss Gloria Hall, and she sent me scriptures. I mean, just her presence, her smile, her, hey, baby, it's just so many people that I know I met for a reason. I don't know if they realize how much strength they give me. My cousin Jackie, if she go too many days without talking to me, that's the only person pull up at my house unannounced other than your sister. Clayton be like, there go Jackie. She ain't seen you in a couple of days. She got to come by. It's so many people that give me strength. Then my brother is locked up for 11 years. So through all of this, he lost his mom, nephew, everybody, and he was where he's at. And I say, well, he locked up, he can't be here. So it gives me strength, because I just, like, that it gotta hurt. And if you talk to him or see his face, you wouldn't think that he has been through what he has been through, locked up behind bars. My mom didn't even want to talk to him on the phone during her illness. She said, he can't do nothing. Why did y'all tell him? She didn't want him to know. So all of that, dealing with that, a lot of that stuff gives me strength. It don't make me feel, it make me feel sad sometimes, but it also gives me strength. I got a lot of ladies that check on me. Angie, I've been knowing her since I was in high school. I mean, a little girl in Green Acres. She called me. She'll send me texts. She come by. We argue about whatever. And I, my sister, she don't deal with a lot of people, but I do. She's more the, she don't have time, or she's just not a people person. Where I am, and it helps me. So I try to tell her, maybe if you talk to some parents, or if you talk to people, not telling her how to grieve about her son, I'm hoping that it would give her strength, like it give me strength. Like, maybe to make you feel better. But as I haven't lost a child, so I can't tell her. I can only try to encourage her.
Are you
I
in
can't
therapy?
tell her how to grieve.
Are you in therapy?
No, I'm still considering it.
Have you ever been in therapy?
No, my daughter went. My oldest daughter went, and she said the therapist told her that we need counseling.
Wow, I did not know you've never had therapy. You would never think that you did not have therapy, because you talk.
The people is I look at it as the people is my therapy.
Yeah,
they don't even know it. Even the little
That's
boys that deal with Talik. I just told my daughter the other day, I said, Bakia, I can't explain the feeling I get. You know, I said, it's not a bad feeling. She said, Mom, that's because they genuinely love Talik. She said, and you know this. She said, it's just give you a sense of joy when they come around. You know.
Absolutely. I'm going to definitely connect you with Dr. Nikki. She's a regular on this show, Dr. Nikki Ty. She's not a real doctor, but she is an MSW. She just moved to North Carolina. I think she's in Raleigh. Good friend of mine, fellow Falcon alumni of St. Aug. So I'm going to link you up with her so you can start to talk to her to see what you would need. Family counseling is also a good thing. I'm not sure if she does that, but I know she works with all age groups, including young folks. But yeah, therapy is, I always say to each and everybody I talk to, therapy is probably the thing that saved my life or saved me from taking someone's life. Therapy is a saver. And it's a stigma around therapy, especially in a Black community. So I try my best to debunk that, because therapy is a really, really good thing, excellent thing. So I encourage you, but I'll definitely contact you with Nikki. So closing, you talked a little bit about how some of your self-care is cooking for other people, talking to other people. What's next for you when it comes to your dreams, your goals, and aspirations, as far as cooking, what you see for your family? Because as we grieve, and this is something that I struggle with, we still have to move on. Still have to keep going. I know both my mother, your mother, Talik, your uncle. Shout out to the Gills, a wonderful family. And all the other people that we've lost, they would want us to keep going. I was talking to Mrs. Campbell, and I didn't know Ahmad because he was a baby, just like I don't know Talik because he was a baby when I was living in Henderson. But for me, I always take those people everywhere I go. So when I walk in a room, Ahmad is with me, Talik is with me, Reef is with me, VJ is with me, Carl Hart is with me. The list goes on. LaJuan Wilkins is with me. I'm always bringing those people. J-Rock is with me. So what's next for you? What does Ebony, Gil-Mitchell, how does life look in the next 5 years for you?
I got some plans, you know. I have goals. And I found my senior book when I had closed down the grill, and all of my goals that I wrote down, which was cooking and having my own restaurant, was in there, and I couldn't even remember. And it just blew my mind. So I have wrote down some more goals. You know, we do have goals. So hopefully within that, what my children, they swear me down, they don't want to cook. The restaurant life is not for them, whatever. But hopefully I will have something to pass on to them one day.
Do they cook?
Oh, my daughter. Oh, my oldest one can cook.
But she doesn't like
she got it in her, but she's so, my oldest daughter is, oh my God, her hands are like I can't even explain it. She's like a little Tasmanian devil. She can cook, but she don't like it. Whatever she's going to get into, she's going to be great at it as long as she keep that speed. I don't know what she's going to do, but I see something happening for her. Good. Now, my 19-year-old can cook, and my mom, it's crazy because it took my mom to leave this world. Because my mom asked me one day, she was like, Korea, you ever ate Renee's cooking? I was like, no. And she was like, girl, that girl can cook. You hear me? I said, you ate her and my sister. Was like, Renee's can cook. So she went down her grandma's house one weekend. They didn't have any taco season. And her grandma was like, she said, she's called her Lou. She said, Lou said, don't worry about it, Grandma. I know I got you. She said, Anthony, it was good. She can bake. She bakes a lot of my cakes for me. She said, I don't give her credit for it, but she bakes a lot of my cakes for me. She cooks. She take care of her sisters and brothers. We go all the town. And my son was actually in a cooking class. So he's the one that wants to compete with me. I'm going to give him a cook-off. How old is he? He's 16.
Okay, he's 16. Okay.
So he thinks he can cook, and he loves to compete with me. And I continually tell him I don't compete in what I love doing. I just do it. A person who cooks from the heart ain't got time to compete, not even with their own children.
Oh yeah, you cook from the heart, the elbow, the toes, and everywhere else.
Look, this arm right
the best turkey I've ever had was 2 Thanksgivings ago, and I've been trying to chase that flavor. So whatever you do, and you tell your little ones, they better start packaging them seasoning, them sauces, and hey, the Mitchells.
Yeah, they do really, really good. My whole family could cook, to be honest with you. They just don't like to. Hey. They don't love it like I love it.
Yeah, I don't love baking, but I love money. I love the money I get from when people buy my products. Yeah, I hate to bake. I don't even like sweets, but I love the money that comes with those.
And it's crazy that because I didn't even bake a box cake before I went to culinary school. I didn't even bake a box cake. You couldn't pay me to bake a cake. So when I got it, I was actually in culinary before I realized I had to take, was it a year or 2-year baking class? I was like, I'm not here for that. I just want the cooking part of it.
Did that give you
I learned more about baking.
Is that what pushed your creativity? Because I noticed that the type of food that you make is like really, really like it goes there. Your cake.
Well, actually, in the class, they named me Big Mama in my class too. But I wasn't the oldest person in there, but they called me Big Mama. I didn't like baking. So when I would do stuff in there, we had to teach ourselves. Like we was in groups, and I didn't want to work in no group. But I end up loving it all once I finished school. I couldn't, like grasp the concept of, well, I got to work in a group. I want to be by myself. But it was so fun. I enjoy every bit of it. We was piping roses, and it's like a big nail. You have to pipe roses on. It's called, I can't think of the name of it. But you have to pipe out a rose on that nail like a thumbtack while you turn it at the same time. So the first try, I got it. Oh, my classmates argued me up and down. You did it before. I was like, no, I didn't. Yes, you have. You done did this before, so-and-so. We would argue so bad because they didn't believe it.
You were a chef in your former life.
And my nephews, I still have one living nephew, Kayvon. He's my oldest nephew, and he's 24, I want to say. 24, which both of their birthdays are this month. Talik's birthday is the 27th, and his is the 21st. He told me he was a little boy, and I just thought he was greedy. He said, Uncle, you need to go to school for cooking. I said, oh, boy, you just hungry. He told me, I'm serious. He told me that. So Talik, he would come ask me to cook stuff that, when I say they was my hype men, they really were. It made me think I was the best cook in the world. So they really inspired me, and it makes me feel good that I did it because they inspired me to do it. And I don't even know if they, well, I did tell Kayvon that. He was one of my biggest inspirations. So he do know that much. He inspired me to go to school.
Make sure you keep it up in their memory. This conversation has been great, healing for me. It motivates me to talk to more young Black boys to just try to stay out of trouble. And even if we do everything right, we tell our nieces and nephews and our loved ones to stay out of trouble. Trouble can find them.
Yes, it can.
Trouble can find them.
You could be minding your business. As Talik, and they was minding their business, and somebody just rolled up on them. And
same thing with Ahmad Campbell. Ahmad Campbell just going to a party 4 years ago yesterday. just going to a party, relieving some stress, fail the test, and end up not making it.
And his mom, I still remember the day his mom came and told me they had found the guy who did it, because she used to come to the restaurant too.
Oh yeah.
And she's one of the strongest.
Oh yeah. I think y'all go tit for tat. I talk to her often now. She that's like another big sister. She done adopted me. We talk, and just trying to encourage her, making sure that his scholarship fund, because she explained to me the purpose of the scholarship fund. That's something else that I want to talk to you in essence about. Making sure that people that have resources, because the Taliks in the world, the Ahmads in the world, the Reefs in the world, if they were living, they would be here to speak about it. They would be encouraging people. They would turn those corners that the mothers and the fathers were praying for. They just needed the time, and unfortunately, that time was cut short. So, Mrs. Mitchell, it's been amazing talking to you. Again, I thank you so much for your honesty, your rawness. I'm praying and meditating that you get the justice for your nephew. I'm daily thinking about Essence. Shout out to Essence. I know I don't call you as much as I should, but hey, girl, I don't call nobody. I'm that family member. I'm like, you got to call me. But I love y'all. Y'all have always been 100%. I think I've only got mad at Essence once in life. Other than that, we've been solid. But y'all have been amazing to the family. You have been amazing to my sister. I wish I had a best friend like you. But I do have you as a sister cousin, and I will not say this. I cannot say this enough. You are an amazing human being. You have been there. You are the model of someone as support. When we look up support in the dictionary, your face is right there.
Wow, I really appreciate it.
With some Henny wings. Thank you, Love Village, for joining us, listening to us. I hope you learned something, but you have just been queued up, and we are out.